Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Westboro. If you have not seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell, which is actually, there are 20 of us here in Westboro. There are 70 of us in all. And because there's a bunch of us, I get to do nothing but elder law, but this show is not about elder law. It's about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've been to any of my presentations, you've seen Frank and Mary and know that their goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's Westboro, that means right here. They don't want to move far away. And so the question, if you identify with Frank and Mary, the question for you is, who are the people you need to know? What are the programs you need to know about to stay right here in Westboro? And that includes, things that are just about seniors and also things that are about the whole town, but where seniors really have a stake, because you're here, you're paying taxes, you're getting services. So my wonderful co-host is Shelby Marshall, whom everybody seems to know, and we've been doing this show now for quite a while. Shelby, welcome back. And Shelby always gets the great guests. We actually have one of our guests actually was here by popular demand. His ratings were so high we brought him back, but then he's brought another companion with him. So Shelby, whom do we have today?
Yeah, so thank you, Arthur. As always, great to see you, and thank you to our viewers for joining us. I'm very excited to have our police chief, Jeff Lourie, joining us. He's been on the show before and is no stranger to the community, and he's complemented by his deputy chief, Todd Minardi, also not a stranger to Westboro, and has been a longtime member of the force. So, gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so I asked these two amazing guys to be on our show for a couple reasons. One, the select board recently heard a presentation from the police chief and deputy chief regarding two items. One is an article that will come before the voters at town meeting, and that is for the addition of a lieutenant. And Chief Lourie is going to walk us through that. I think it's really important for the public to understand why this position is being requested, and sort of how the national landscape and how changes in law enforcement are having a trickle-down effect, for lack of a better way to say it, here in Westboro, and how that lieutenant position will support those landscape changes. And then Deputy Chief Minardi is going to take us through elements of the staffing study, which was done several years ago, but talking about kind of current call volume trends and the longer, what I would kind of call the longer term plan for the department as it relates to staffing, particularly on the patrol side. And these guys will keep me in the straight and narrow and correct me if I'm wrong in anything I just said. So with that, let's turn it over to you, Jeff, if you would, please.
Yeah, so thanks again for having us. And I just want to remind everyone that the last selectmen's meeting in September, we did a very thorough presentation, which also involves an electric vehicle, which I'm not going to talk about today. I just wanted to commend the deputy chief for all his hard work putting this together with the assistance of Pat Cullen, and obviously Detective Josh Croft, who one of our fleet managers assisted me with the electric vehicle proposal. But I wanted to start out just by reminding everyone the Westboro Police Department mission statement. And we strive to recruit and retain caring, compassionate, and competent police officers who are committed to serve, educate, and protect our community, to provide professional services that address specific needs, present educational programs to prevent and reduce crime, to ensure a safe environment for all, and guarantee everyone is treated with dignity and respect. And to that end, we're facing a number of different things right now in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which brought us to the point where we decided that in our staffing plan that we needed to add a lieutenant's position. And the issues to consider are the strategic plan that you can see on PDF on the webpage from 2018 that strives for a dedicated workforce, strong labor relations, basically critical success factors, and develop departmental leadership succession plans. And we're going to talk about POST, and that is the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission. And I'm going to give you an update on that. And these requirements really are going to keep this lieutenant's position extremely busy, along with our body worn camera program, increase supervision. This will reduce liability. It will improve response to public records requests, increased administrative responsibilities due to, like I said, the body worn camera program. And a brief update on that, where we are with that is all the equipment is in. We're basically in the final stages of reviewing policy, and then the town manager and I will sit down, and the deputy chief as well, with the unions, and we will impact bargain to hopefully have that program in place this winter to the beginning of the year. Basically, we really want to be an accredited agency this spring, moving, towards full accreditation. This lieutenant's position, that will be one of his responsibilities. Basically, our detective lieutenant is required to allocate too much time to process firearms licenses, process court discovery motions, more distinct delineation of responsibilities to improve service. So this position is really critical to us right now with everything that we're facing, through the Commonwealth, through the country. And the Massachusetts Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission is charged with creating a mandatory certification process for police officers, as well as processes for decertification, suspension of certification, or reprimand in the event of certain misconduct. So this lieutenant, it will be dealing with these new post requirements. And I'm just going to be very quick with this, just to let you know, basically the updates that the deputy chief and I received when we were out at a training conference in Gardner recently, through Chief Keyes of Chelsea. Basically, a 9-member board has been selected. They're currently meeting. There'll be a creation of Division of Police Standards. No staff has been hired as of yet. There will be a director and investigators. However, none of them will have any law enforcement background or experience. There'll be public hearings commencing soon to include subcommittees, such as the Body Worn Camera Subcommittee. So when I talk about the update, when we put our policy into place, what we're hoping through post is complete standardization of policy and procedures. And we will be making changes to that. And as I'm committed, as I stated before, once we are done with that project, they will all be up online on the PD website for the citizens to review.
Jeff, if I may, just so I understand, with all sort of what you just spoke to, this is at the state level, like that this commission has been created, this board is being created, and then the hearings are at the state level, correct?
Yes, and basically every officer will be certified for 3 years, within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay.
And some of these things that are going to be taking place is standardized background checks. Summary of the background checks will be sent to the Massachusetts Training Council to be included in the academy packet. MPTC to create policy regarding background checks, and we'll be reporting to Post Commission. And numerous standardized forms came out this week that we're putting on our letterhead now, things that we're going to have to report and we're going to have to do. Basically, autism training is going to be mandated. Fair and impartial training will be mandated by the Training Council. We've already implemented that. December 1st is slated for standard training program relative to use of force, an act requiring critical incident intervention by emergency service providers. And what that is when there's a critical incident, that we debrief our personnel. We want to make sure that our officers are not just physically healthy, but they're mentally healthy and strong as well. And to that end, we have Officer Will Kearney from our department, who's part of District 14, who's getting the training right now to make sure we do just that, provide the tools for our officers' toolboxes when they're faced, very dire and terrible incidents. There's a 2-day SRO, School Resource Officer Certification Program. That occurs September 20th and 21st, and Detective Dappolite, our SRO, did attend that training. And basically, MBTC is mandating a higher level of training for school resource officers. And as I stated, Post will certify officers for 3 years. Those needing a bridge academy, which a lot of our reserve officers will need, that will begin in October, beginning with the last name starting letter A through H, and then year 2, how your last name, and then year 3 is S through Z. And like I said, the Post Commission can audit our internal affairs records at any time. There's a deadly force exception relative to shooting at a moving vehicle, but no deadly force exception as it relates to chokeholds. The Department of Public Health reporting review on use of force concerning serious injury or death. So this lieutenant is going to be extremely busy whenever there's an injury, whether it's to an officer or to an individual that we encounter during the performance of our duties. That has to be reported, to the Post Commission. And when I talk about internal affairs, Let's say someone, is disciplined and they're given a 2-day or a 5-day suspension. If the post commission decides to review that through their investigators, they could decertify up to 30 days. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, what do we do with that officer, et cetera. So this lieutenant's going to be extremely busy kind of reviewing and maintaining all these files.
Chief,
Jeff? Oh, go ahead.
could I just ask, did I just hear you say that if there's been an incident and you're dealing with an officer, that the post commission has the ability to decertify you folks?
Yes.
Wow.
They could, and if an officer, if they determine that the officer is going to be decertified permanently,
Yep.
what that's going to do is, and if someone goes that left of center, they're going to be terminated, by the deputy and I. I mean, I'm the appointing authority. If you do something so egregious that I have to terminate you,
Right.
you can be decertified, because that, in essence, will ensure that you can't be picked up by another agency. As you know, counsel, in many cases, people resign before that discipline takes effect in some of these instances, and they could be picked up by other agencies. Well, now
Right.
the post gets involved and they're decertified. So this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Where it gets a little murky is when the officer, I suspend them for 2 or 3 days, and then post decides to review it and says, no, I'm going to decertify for 30 days. So these are just the things that we're going to have to face, moving forward. And like I said, post can conduct their own additional inquiry and take independent action.
But the reason why I asked that is it really speaks to the necessity for having staff that is pretty much doing nothing but this. That is,
Well-
because this is a big deal, and it could have huge implications department wide. If
We
you go.
discussed the body worn camera initiative, and that in and of itself, just dealing with those public records requests, redacting those videos for certain things. It's this position. It may determine that, hey, you need to hire another supervisor down the road, a few years down the road, just to assist this lieutenant. And
Right.
basically, there'll be physical fitness standards will be implemented that we must adhere to annually or biannually. Unprofessional conduct is yet to be defined. There are many unanswered questions by post. Accreditation, policy and procedure updates, body camera initiatives, mandates alone will justify the absolute need. And that's what's on this warrant article in October. And like I said, I pretty much, from holding cell, we have to do inspections at our cells, time management, court discovery, solicitor permits, firearms licensing, public records, grant administrator, body worn camera, accreditation, and post. This person is going to be absolutely out straight. And you will see by the unbelievable presentation that the deputy is going to provide right now, we're in desperate need of staffing. And it's absolutely mission critical that we get some bodies that meet the road. I mean, our numbers, and you're going to see them. I don't want to take up any more time. I'd like to turn it over to the deputy chief, because the lieutenant's one thing, but we need some tires that meet the road real bad.
So Jeff, just before we turn it over to the deputy chief, just to reemphasize the point that Arthur just made, I mean, this position, this lieutenant position, I mean, it is highly administrative. I mean, I think I'm hearing this presentation now for the second time, but this is a person that is, I don't want to say is sort of behind the scenes, but for lack of a better way to say it, I mean, I'm sure they'll be in the community, but they are going to be in the office working through so many different elements. I mean, it almost is a different type of officer in many ways. You have to hire and recruit or, potentially promote, right?
Yeah, round peg, round hole. And I have the person ready to go. We have a current list in process. And this is going to create another thing that I think the folks at home, should be pleased about. We're going to create a patrol division lieutenant commander who's going to be working nights. So that's going to make sure we have another high-level command position that's on the evening shift, ensuring that we have proper supervision, not just on days. But right now we just have a lieutenant on the day shift. So we're excited about it. And like I said, I can't wait for you, the folks at home, to see Deputy Chief Minardi's presentation. And if you want to see the entire what we put on at the Selectmen's meeting last week, by all means, Westboro TV does a fantastic job getting that up online.
Well, and I know that you've long talked about, since you've been here, the importance of supervision across all shifts. And I know that that's been a long-term goal and is important to everything we're talking about. So with that, turn it over to Deputy Chief Minardi.
All right, thank you very much. As the chief said, thanks for having us. I'm just going to jump right into the slide presentation because I know there's a ton of data. I trimmed it down quite a bit from the selectmen's meeting, but what we're going to focus on today is just patrol staffing in my portion. So when we talk about police staffing at the patrol level, this is kind of the matrix we go through, right? We want to talk about public safety, obviously, because we're the police department. We also have to think about officer safety because we have a responsibility to provide the proper protection for our officers that are out on the street. And obviously it boils down to what our level of service is. Are we providing the adequate level of service to our community? And of course, last but not least, we have to take into consideration the impact to the taxpayer. So when we talk about staffing, the town's done a lot of work already in relation to staffing throughout the whole community. They had the strategic plan in 2018. They're working on the master plan drafts for 2021. They all talk about staffing studies that have been done. In 2018, the town retained MRI to do a staffing study of the police department. It's been widely published. It's certainly available for anyone to read the details. We're going to just focus on a couple issues today. Again, this focus just on uniform patrol level positions. It was a very comprehensive report. It looked at our comparable communities, our dashboard communities. And one of the things it talked about was calls per officer, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But basically what their findings were presented in 2019 was to add 5 patrol positions immediately and a total of 15 by the year of 2024. So just talk to a little bit about where our patrol staffing is right now. This graph shows how our shifts are currently staffed. A 4 to 12 shift is staffed at 7 officers. For the 6-day rotation, the officers work a 4 and 2 rotation, so it's 6 days for a full week. The day shifts and midnight to 8s are staffed at 5, except for 2 day shifts are actually at 6. So by adding just 1 patrol officer, we could increase the staffing across that day shift to be a total of 6. We also talk about level of service and officer safety. We have to look at how many times our shifts are actually staffed at minimum. This breaks down January through June of this year. Our policy is to staff our shifts no fewer than 4 patrol officers. So you can see by this graph, there's a number of times during the day or the week or the month that we're not fully staffed. We're not at 7 or 5 or 6. We're actually at 4. There's a number of reasons for that. Obviously, officers take time off. Officers are out sick. Officers are out on training. They could be out injured on duty. They could be on FMLA. There's a number of reasons for that, but it really breaks down to we might staff a shift at 7, but sometimes it's really at 4, which can get pretty taxing on a patrol shift when you only have 4 officers. Again, we want to talk about our workload, right? Increase in workload and what's been going on since 2018, when MRI, the first year they used data for their report. Since 2018, we're projecting almost a 56% increase in our incident reporting this year. When we talk about arrests, we're projecting an increase of 144% over 2018. And when we talk about criminal summonses, a 70% increase over 2018. And as I said in the selectmen's meeting, a lot of these summonses could have been arrests. There's a lot of issues when it comes to taking someone into custody. If we're at minimum staff and we have a prisoner, we have to watch that prisoner. So that ties up another officer inside the station to watch the prisoner, which can cause force-in situations where we have to call officers and have them come in so we can cover the patrol shift. It obviously creates overtime issues and it creates safety issues. So to move on to the calls per officer that MRI talked about, their projection, well, the actual stats for 2018 Where they projected us to be in 2024, we actually hit that number in 2019. But in 2019, we added 2 officers, not 5. In 2020, we added 2. In 2021, we added 1. So initially they said 5. We didn't get to that 5 until 2021. When you talk about the calls per officer, how it's broken down, what MRI recommends is a 700 calls per officer range with a goal to actually reach 600. What we presented to the selectmen was a proposal to hire 3 positions right away that we had actually been looking to add in FY21 and FY22 initially. Those 3 positions still have us around probably the 800, 900 calls per officer range. What we've been asked to submit was a proposal to fund those 3 positions through the ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Funds proposal. Again, that would create 3 new positions and replace a hybrid cruiser that we had initially been seeking. We think it really meets the funds criteria. These 3 points are directly from the Treasury. That's the criteria they look to decide if it's eligible funding. What we've requested is to FY22 to fully fund the positions through ARPA, and then gradually through 23, 24, 25, and 26, we incrementally increase the budget to the point where we're finally fully funding those positions. And in working with the town manager and her financial team, this is just something we've put out there for future considerations. Possible what we could be looking at for FY26, maybe starting a position halfway through the year, then FY27 and 28, what some of those numbers might look like and what, again, that cost to the taxpayer could be. And that's really all I have for that. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I know I went through that kind of fast, but I know.
No, that was where unfortunately airtime is limited. So thank you, Deputy Chief. That was great. And again, folks can obviously watch this at their leisure and rewind it and do all that good stuff. Arthur, you're new to this. I'm going to put you right on the spot. I see a question forming in your mind.
No, I was just going to ask. It was my understanding, but I just wanted to confirm this. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to confirm this, that the ARPA money is controlled by the selectmen, so that there's no, is there a need to be authorizing this plan through a town meeting vote? No. So that
No.
it was, I was actually doing another show and we were talking about the ARPA money, which, you know, when we think back to how catastrophic everybody thought their budget was going to be for the next 2 years back in February, March of 2020, you know, how life changes, right? But it is my understanding that those, at least in Ashland, where we just did the show, that, you know, the check hasn't arrived, but it's kind of in the mail, and that the money may very well actually arrive this year. So in this fiscal year, you could actually implement this plan.
There's $2 million that's already in the account right now.
I get it. Oh, that's good. Mail service is better in Westboro than it is in Ashland. Apparently.
So I mean, and just to kind of to say, you know, I talked about this at the selectmen's meeting. You know, we're doing everything we can to be very responsible with the tax dollars. Deputy stated, we have a clinician in the cruiser through a Department of Mental Health grant. I know I'm looking at my cadenza, and there is, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 major projects that are being proposed, you know, whether it be Amazon, you know, Brigham and Women's, you know, and I keep saying this, but Westboro's building it and they're coming. And it's you know, if you look at the finance committee meeting up the selectmen's meeting, one of the finance advisory members, you know, said she ran into an officer and said, you know, how often are you taxed? And his answer was, all the time. I mean, our officers are really doing a yeoman's job, you know, basically handling what we're dealing with. And like the deputy said, there are days, there are 3 patrol officers and a sergeant that are patrolling this town, just, you know, 4 police officers. And it can be very, very taxing, on the staff. So
That's a real eye opener. And Shelby, as Chief, as you know, Shelby, one of my jobs here is to actually watch time, and I have been watching. You guys have been incredibly efficient with the use of your time in terms of the amount of data provided. But I'm looking at the fact that we need to be, I think, Shelby, we need to be wrapping up.
Yeah. So I think it's important, and I just want to make sure that the community has access to this information. So will this presentation, along with the information which we didn't cover on the e-vehicle, as well as the MRI study, are those available through the police department website, or will they be?
We can certainly make it available. Absolutely.
Okay, and I don't recall if the MRI staffing study is available already through the town manager's link, but I think it'd be important to get this information out there so folks can really digest this. We obviously, as a town, have to have some pretty in-depth conversations across departments to really understand the best, most effective, appropriate use of the ARPA funds. But there is no question, much like we've seen on the kind of your brethren in the fire department, the increased call volume. There's no question that the data supports what MRI postulated back in 2018-19. And so to your point, the volume is there. The question is, at the end of the day, how do we fund it and how do we ensure officer safety as well as compliance with all these other standards we talked about and kind of what the community is demanding?
Exactly.
How do we reconcile those? And that's where the fun conversations begin, I guess.
And just to remind everyone, the staffing study is on the department webpage, and you're absolutely correct, Shelby. Our fire department's in the 40s and your police department's in the 30s. And there's parity there as far as our workload.
Right. So I would encourage, I want to thank you both so much for your time today. Jeff and Todd are available for questions from the public. They make themselves readily available. So if you have questions, reach out to them. They're accessible, and we appreciate that. And Arthur, with that, I'll let him close us out.
And Shelby, this was a wonderful show. For folks who are watching, we have decided that now that COVID is kind of behind us, that rather than doing a weekly show, one of the purposes of which was just to keep people updated, that we're going to shift to a twice monthly show starting next month. And we hope that won't discourage you from watching. And hopefully, and once again, if there are emergencies that come up, we'll go back, and we'll add extra shows. So thank you very much for watching. We hope you connect with the chief or with the folks at the police department if you've got questions, or talk to Shelby. She's like always working. She loves this job. So thank you very much, Shelby. Thank you very much to the folks at the police department. And folks, thank you for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Westboro. Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.